Infantile General. See? So big up the whole crew. It's at 5 o'clock every Sunday event. We start streaming on TikTok. The General Pink Panther can find my page and follow me. Start stream 5 p.m. sharp. I'll go to 10 o'clock. Every Sunday. It's not just one venue. We're all over everywhere. All over everywhere with it. Everywhere. Right now we're like forgot Africa. That's right. Mad thing. I make the host. You have bad girl training me artist. You have DJs killing me selector over there for my ends and me and them roll straight. Most show, what you say? Boss Song Sundays out. SK. The promoter Virgin. See? A big muffin.
That's right.
All drive records. Then left we're in. Always around the Boss Song to the family. Time City medical artist. Bad boy and Korea. Look what film now. Pink Panther send him away. So look out for the little youth there.
Skinny.
I want to excitement, man. Forward DJ Skinny. Thanks for expression. Pink Panther General said, large for yourself. Out.
That's right.
We come for chant down Babylon. Lies and deceptions. The scripture show but Babylon, them a use it as a weapon. Watch them in. We come for chant down Babylon.
Chant, we ever chant down Babylon.
Come make we chant down Babylon.
Chant, we ever chant
fire
down
up and we chant down Babylon.
Chant, we ever
Trust me,
chant down
anytime we a chant down Babylon. We are the ones from the east, trample the beast. The truth always speak, make the whole of them freeze.
As always, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Central Expressions right here on CVM TV. Now remember, we're here every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. with our broadcast Friday mornings at 9. And you should start so until the next time.
Mount it a more, but we see say you are muffet. When our sell not soul, keep a bucket and nuggets. The truth done reveal and the whole of we are say it. Shine down. Come make we chant.
We ever chant.
Good evening. Happy Jamaica Day. Tonight, inside Lead Story, we revisit two of the most consequential conversations of the week. First, a war of words with constitutional implications. The Minister of National Security and Peace, Dr. Horace Chang, accused Jamaicans of justice for receiving what he called blood money. What happens when a sitting minister questions the integrity of a human rights organization? Then, a judicial first. The trial of Julian Silvera is set to be live streamed beginning March 6, following a notice shared by Chief Justice Brian Sykes. Does this mark a new era of transparency in Jamaica's courts, or does it test the boundaries of fair trial principles, especially since it's a gun court trial? And we close Reggae Month and mark Jamaica Day today. We ask what it means to move from celebrating Black history, another thing this month is, to prioritizing Jamaicanness. I'm Jody Ann Quarry, and this is Lead Story. Earlier this week, inside Lead Story, the Minister of National Security and Peace, Dr. Horace Chang, made comments suggesting that Jamaicans for Justice had received what he described here and elsewhere as blood money. The remark triggered strong responses from civil society and the political opposition. On Wednesday, I spoke with opposition spokesperson on national security Fitz Jackson. Here is that conversation. Well, we're talking about one of the latest developments coming out of statements that have been made earlier this week by Minister of National Security and Peace, Dr. Horace Chang. The latest development is this. Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, has confirmed it's seeking legal advice following those comments being made by the minister in a radio interview. And here again on Lead Story. Minister Chang alleged the organization lives off blood money, and he has also doubled down, indicating that he will not withdraw the statement. Jamaicans for Justice calls it potentially defamatory. And let's listen to this clip from Minister Chang that talks to us about why he's not pulling it back.
In the context of what you said then, Minister, that very specific context there, but the broader one in which JFJ is speaking, are you considering withdrawing the statement that you have made, that broader statement about them receiving?
I want to say it in that context because I'm very concerned that this shop is not a police in terms of people saying moved on violent society is being undermined by activism, by individuals who say they are out there to achieve peace and protect the Constitution. The Constitution is designed to protect Jamaicans from that kind of brutal violence. And the police is designed not to anything to do so. Anybody who takes action does see things in a manner that will not only undermine confidence of our police officers, but will put their families under social pressure is doing something wrong, and I will condemn it in time.
Minister Chang saying he's not pulling it back and pushing it back onto the JFJ, saying that anybody who decides that they're pushing back on the police not only puts those officers at risk, but also their family. But pushback from the minister's comment is now coming from inside Gordon House as well. Opposition spokesperson Fitz Jackson today condemned the minister's remarks, calling them a troubling attack on a recognized civil society organization. Jackson argues that at a time when the country is grappling with serious crime, the minister should be focused on evidence-based policy and building trust, not targeting watchdogs with inflammatory rhetoric. Now, under the Defamation Act of 2013, the defense of fair comment exists. But Mr. Jackson warns that these statements risk distracting from the urgent work of reducing violent crime. Joining me now inside Lead Story is Fitz Jackson, opposition spokesperson on national security. Mr. Jackson, good evening and welcome. Mr. Jackson, you're muted as you speak with us.
Oh,
so we're not,
I'm
there you
sorry,
go.
I'm sorry. My apologies. Good evening to you.
Good evening
to your listeners.
Thanks so much for joining us inside the show.
By the way, every time that I speak to you, with you, I'm mindful of the fact that I have a community that bears your name in my constituency.
Well, it's a very famous name in this country, and so I'm glad to be aligned with a famous name from a famous person. It's not me, though, Mr. Jackson, that community is named for, but you, as opposition spokesperson on national security, have called the comments made by the National Security and Peace Minister deeply unbecoming. These are comments that he has made regarding Jamaicans for Justice. Do you believe that a Minister of National Security has a specific and higher duty of restraint when discussing organizations that provide oversight to the security forces?
Indeed. And all of us who hold position of responsibility, even private organizations, but more so, even public institutions. And the Ministry of National Security and that portfolio is a very peculiar one. And I say so against the background that our society, unfortunately, live on an edge in many instances. Many little things will tick off persons and cause them to behave in an inappropriate way. And so we have to be very careful of even not just what we say, but how we say it. And I believe that in the instant case, regrettably, the minister, for whatever displeasure, disquiet he may have about that particular group, JFJ, that response will be, I deem, very inappropriate and unfortunate.
Well, let's take a look at the comments that had been made by Minister of National Security and Peace, Dr. Horace Chang, and contrast them now with the position that you are taking, because we have some graphics here on that. National Security Minister Chang described JFJ as living off blood money, but you in your statement today have called the remarks reckless and inappropriate. The minister, however, has said he is speaking the truth, claiming that his statements regarding funding and advocacy concerning the JFJ are accurate. In your view, does calling a non-governmental organization, an NGO, a recipient of what the minister has labeled as, quote, blood money, unquote, move this beyond political debate into the territory of institutional delegitimization?
It is. It is. You know, we in government, you know, we stand to be criticized by persons who don't agree with what we do and how we do what we do. And we have to be careful that in our utterances we don't even appear to want to silence those different views that will occur from time to time. And so, again, I believe, and I believe very strongly, that it's very unfortunate that the minister made those statements. I find it very regrettable. It's not about him, it's about the country also, and what it can cause or may cause. Ms. Quarry, when people refer to blood money, in normal terms, you know what that refers to? Money that is achieved from the blood of somebody else. Proceeds from criminal act. That's what it means in ordinary terms. It's not an abstract term. And it is the statement and the comment by itself is inferring that the entity that is funded from contributions, as much as I know, from various entities, and what entities that we would deem legitimate.
Funding sources like USAID, the European Union, and the United Nations.
And
funding sources that the Jamaicans for Justice has indicated are also sources that fund the government of Jamaica as well. Is this something that is not only implicating JFJ, but also these international donors?
That's exactly why I'm so concerned. Because these entities, I know particularly of the European Union and United States, and there are others elsewhere in Canada also, that fund these citizens groups. And the last thing you want is for people of goodwill or people who make contributions to Jamaica feel that we are, unjust in our doing.
At the same time, Mr. Jackson, there are people who could say legitimately and credibly in their opinions that civil society groups are sometimes going too far, that their comments that they make now go too far in then demoralizing the police. How do you balance robust criticism, as you suggest, that organizations such as civil society organizations that look at police conduct might be doing, and deal with the allegation made by the minister that, well, you're putting the police officers at risk and you're demoralizing them in a time when they need all the support that they can get?
No, look here, I'm not going to sit here and give the impression that all these organizations are perfect, in much the same way that we ourselves are not. And if JFJ or any other civil society group, I don't agree with things that they say from time to time also, and other civil society groups. And what I do, I engage them directly on those specific or particular utterances or actions that they take. I see it as a responsibility of me as a public servant to do that way, to act that way. Because you see, those of us in public office, it is our foremost responsibility to hold the country together and all the important elements of the country, all important entities of the country. That's our responsibility as leaders, whether we like it or not. And the day comes that we find it difficult to do that. it's a time that we need to step aside.
Well, you've urged the minister to humbly withdraw the statement. If he doesn't, what's the opposition's next move in the House to ensure ministerial accountability?
You know, I want to believe that Minister Chang will become very reflective, even in light of those quotes I heard you made earlier on about not withdrawing the comments. I do believe, and I hope sincerely, that he will reflect deeper, reflect longer, and upon those reflections, good sense will prevail, and he will do the appropriate thing. So I won't preempt what he may do ahead of those deeper contemplations.
All right, stay with us inside Lead Story as we continue with Fitz Jackson, opposition spokesperson on national security, after this break.
Well, that was our interview with Fitz Jackson on Wednesday, responding to comments made by the Minister of National Security and Peace. As at today, the minister has maintained his position. And we note that Jamaicans for Justice has consistently published donor disclosures in its annual reports. When we return, a different arm of the state, this time the judiciary.
Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The Time by the
Kingston, get ready! 100 Kingston presents the 10 times 10 anniversary party. When? Saturday, February 28th. We're at 100 Hope Road, Kingston, Jamaica. Live on stage, Christopher Martin, Beanie Man, Agent Sasko, and Egyptian. Gates open at 6 p.m. General admission, 10,000. VIP, 25,000. Get your tickets at 100 Hope Road. Mega Mart, Waterloo, and Portmore. Gina's Pharmacy, Ribis, Arden Road. Jannan Open House at Devon House. And Ribis Gas Station, Washington Boulevard.
It's the 2026 Reggae Gold Awards ceremony, National Arena, Friday, February 27. Join the stars of reggae music on the red carpet as a grateful nation honors its musical ambassadors. Plus, performances by Richie Stevens, Etana, Chris Malachi, Lost and Kawa Reggae Band, straight out of China. Yes, a Chinese reggae band. To cap it all, the Reggae Messenger, Luciano live with the Reggae Gold Orchestra. And Ken Booth being inducted into the Jamaica Music Museum Hall of Fame. And CVM will be there to capture every moment starting at 8 p.m. That's the 2026 Reggae Gold Awards ceremony, National Arena, Friday, February 27. Another Reggae Month 2026 event.
On Thursday, we learned that the trial of Joey and Silvera will be videoed live streamed. That's happening on March 6th. The information was shared publicly by Chief Justice Brian Sykes yesterday. This represents a significant step in the open justice principle. I spoke with senior defense attorney Lloyd McFarlane about what that means. Here is this conversation. For over 50 years, the Jamaican Gun Court has operated behind closed doors, a necessary shield against the intimidation tactics of organized gangs. But in a landmark decision that signaled a new era for the judiciary, Chief Justice Brian Sykes has announced that the sentencing of former Member of Parliament Julian Silvera will be live streamed to the world on March 6, 2026. The move comes after Silvera's recent guilty plea to manslaughter, a development that has already ignited fierce public debate over justice and accountability. The Chief Justice argues that open justice is essential for public confidence. But does broadcasting the final act of a closed-door case clarify the law, or does it merely satisfy public curiosity? Joining us to dissect the legal and ethical implications is one of Jamaica's most distinguished defense attorneys, Lloyd McFarlane. Mr. McFarlane, you've previously stated that the gun court was never intended to be a shield in tragedies involving guns from licensed firearm holders. But there has been a big discussion tonight about if the system is catching up to the reality of open justice and now shifting away from the way that the gun court has previously operated. As you heard what the Chief Justice said today, what is your thought on this?
Well, as I had also said on the last occasion I was on, one of my major concerns is that certainly for the Supreme Court in Kingston, that the public has been systematically kept out of the court. And for all practical purposes, the public is really not allowed in. This is no good for justice because of the very needs of transparency. So when we have a move where the court now is talking about live streaming parts of the case, this is a step forward. But let me be clear, it does not replace the fact that the public must be allowed in court. Also here, it does not entirely replace the fact that the news media has been kept in the dark on several high-profile cases, when in fact, if the media had been reported on them, then we would not have all type of conspiracy theories being developed as to what is going behind them. Let us be clear also on this development. It is not the first time that the court will be live streaming aspects of its judgment.
Is it for the first time for the gun court, a court that's particularly and specifically in camera? Because if the purpose of it is to protect witnesses from gang reprisals, but not to cloak domestic matters, does that mean that a live streaming in the gun court, this particular case with this particular legislation, is a new thing that's happening?
Well, you have to look at it in the context of what happened in the last case where there was a live streaming in terms of sentencing. That is a matter in which I appeared called the Klansman gang trial. And there, the court had always planned to live stream that part, but it had its difficulties because it also wanted to protect witnesses in terms of their names not being called at any time. So for that reason, for a start, it could not do the case fully in terms of live streaming. What happened when the sentencing was being done was that the Chief Justice could now deal with aspects of the case that would not prejudice the outcome of the case in terms of the public getting a certain view of things. So when it came to sentencing, the chances of the accused persons being prejudiced in terms of their trial was no longer there.
Is this different in the Julian Silvera case, however? Because in this case, there was initially a charge for murder with a plea down to manslaughter, and the gun court is an in-camera private proceeding that is taking place. It was always meant to be private. It's different from the Klansman trial, in which there had been an anticipation that some aspect of the case would be televised, versus now, this case, where there had been no notification that there would be this case, any part of it being televised at all, until the Chief Justice's announcement today.
What you have to remember is that the Klansman case was definitely in camera according to statute because of the anti-gang statutes. That is no different from the gun court statutes that require that they be in camera because of fears of gangs. This case, the Julian Silvera case, yes, required no really in-camera proceedings because it was not the type of situation where you were protecting people.
So you're saying it could always have been televised, the entire thing?
And the press should have been allowed in it from the beginning.
All right, a sentencing hearing, which is what will be taking place on March 6th, is often the most emotional part of the process. The court wasn't opening itself up to cameras. The risk of the presence of cameras now risk turning the judicial decision into a performance for the public, or is it now the only way to ensure skeptical citizens that the law is being applied fairly to the powerful?
Well, you have to remember here that the sentencing process is before the judge alone.
in this particular case because it's before the gun court.
Right. And in any event, even if it was a case that was not before the gun court, the sentencing is still for the judge
to
alone.
do, yes.
And when you have a situation where it is a judge alone handling the matter, the emotions are out, because the judge will not be influenced by all type of things that might be said outside of the court. So there's no real concern in that regard. As for the lawyers, when I did the matter with the Klansman thing, I didn't see anybody grandstanding.
But it's not emotional necessarily for those sitting in that courtroom on that day. For family and friends and the nation watching, as they're now trying to figure out what a manslaughter plea means, what takes place now, what this early discount that we've heard is open and available to persons who plea early in advance because they had not been privy to the details prior, but will now be seeing the sentencing part. Will it be emotional for them, or will it be necessary for the judge in this part of the trial to work through the process so that the public has a better understanding? Because Chief Justice Brian Sykes has also said part of the opening up is a public education.
Yes. Now, in terms of the family and so on, they would normally be allowed in to hear and see what is going on. In terms of the public, let me say that when I'm doing, say, a sentencing matter, a part of my address to the court is actually aimed at the public's understanding. I will go through what the judge has to consider, mostly because members of the public will be saying, and why do that, etc. And you have to show, both yourself and the court must show what the process is really about.
I think that's important. The public, though, was braced for a murder trial. Provocation was raised as a defense in this particular case, and they received a manslaughter plea based on that provocation defense. How critical is this broadcast in explaining the technical legal difference to a public that might perceive this as a deal?
Well, in the first place, if we had the transparency that should have been there from the outset, we would not have this situation where people are questioning about what might have gone on behind closed doors. This transparency is necessary. I have always preferred, however, where the public is allowed in, but this will have to do. Now, in this particular situation, yes, you're talking about emotions because there's a big difference in sentencing between manslaughter and murder. A huge difference. For one thing, for murder, you have a mandatory minimum of so many years depending on the type of murder charged. Where you have manslaughter, as I've said, it ranges very widely and causes persons to wonder how him get that sentence. But people have to understand, he's not going to be sentenced for murder. That is not the charge that the Chief Justice will be dealing with. That is not the charge that the prosecution will be dealing with. That is not the charge that the defense will be dealing with. There's also one other important development. Usually, it was the defense alone that made arguments before the court in terms of a reduction, mitigation of sentence. Nowadays, the prosecution speaks, because the whole process has become so carefully worked out in terms of what can be taken into account that now the prosecution has a right to speak.
The prosecution has a right to speak, a right to defend the public on this matter, a right to then be part of this open justice process that certainly we'll be waiting for and hoping to see in that live stream on March 6. We're joined here by Lloyd McFarlane, and he certainly spent the time to help us better appreciate not only what has taken place today in the Chief Justice, explaining now that we will be having a live streaming of the sentencing on March 6th, but also what not to expect. Not a murder sentence, but instead one for manslaughter, given that is what the court had accepted. Thanks so much for joining us inside Lead Story, Lloyd McFarlane. We'll take a break and come back to you, moving now to geopolitics, all the way to St. Kitts, and look how Jamaica gets involved as well. We'll be having that conversation next inside Lead Story. You can go to our YouTube to see the rest of that geopolitics conversation. But on that Silvera matter, that remains before the court. We're making no comment on the merits of the case, but our focus here is strictly on process and transparency.
Moving you now to a Jamaica Day conversation, diving deep into the sounds of reggae, Black History Month, and what it means for the soul of the nation.
It's the 2026 Reggae Gold Awards Ceremony, National Arena, Friday, February 27. Join the stars of reggae music on the red carpet as a grateful nation honors its musical ambassadors. Plus, performances by Richie Stevens, Etana, Chris Malachi, Lost and Kawa Reggae Band, straight out of China. Yes, a Chinese reggae band. To cap it all, the Reggae Messenger, Luciano Live with the Reggae Gold Orchestra. And Ken Booth being inducted into the Jamaica Music Museum Hall of Fame. And CVM will be there to capture every moment starting at 8 p.m. That's the 2026 Reggae Gold Awards Ceremony, National Arena, Friday, February 27. Another Reggae Month 2026 event.
Jamaica. Make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is 6.
Today we close out this final Friday of February, deep diving into the sound and the soul of the nation. Reggae Month is ending, but the conversation around our identity is just beginning. Look, it's Jamaica Day, and we're having that conversation at the end of Black History Month under the theme looking at 100 years of the celebration of Black history and Jamaica Day. Something that started in 2002, then really got underway in 2011, and now this year is under the theme. Hold on, let's find it. Celebrating Jamaica, championing kindness, courage, and community coming out of Hurricane Melissa. See, a country that celebrates itself, that has its colors, and celebrates its music and its culture. To talk to us about all of this, we have two of the foremost architects of our cultural narrative here inside the show. Musicologist and coordinator of the Entertainment and Cultural Enterprise Management Program, a Bachelor of Arts program at the UWI Mona campus, and author Dr. Dennis Howard, and cultural commentator, entrepreneur, and strategic consultant, Clyde McKenzie. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us inside Lead Story.
Nice to be here with you, Judy.
Always a pleasure.
Glad to have you both with us inside the show. You sound like voices from heaven, and that's so lovely to have you here with us. As we mark Jamaica Day and the end of Black History Month, let's look at the state of our brand. So let's start off with you, Clyde McKenzie. The evolution of reggae is something that we're looking at. We often speak of reggae as older reggae, but we're also looking at now newer reggae revival. That's something that we're looking at as well here. And we have a massive concert going on this weekend about that. Is the reggae revival as a chapter in a book of the story of reggae, is that over in 2026, or Clyde McKenzie, has it successfully become the new foundation for the current generation?
Well, this is a recurrent theme, you know. We hear this over and over again. And I suppose music sometimes operates in cycles, you know. People will become accustomed to one particular thing and then they become bored of it. and then they move to something else. And sometimes they harken back to things from the past. And that is what innovation is all about, you know. I mean, it's about using the familiar with a novel, and that in itself is what makes these things fascinating. So you get elements of the past mixed with features of the present, and there you have something that sounds new and exciting, but it sounds familiar too. So yeah, you're always going to get that cry that, you know, we're going back to this, or we're going back to this and that. And I think we are just going through the cycle, and we should just enjoy it for what it's worth. I think there are some very good artists today who are exponents of what we would call roots type reggae, the kind of conscious reggae, for whatever that is worth, that are here, you know, and we should give them all the support that we can, just the way we give other exponents of other Jamaican genres our support. And I sometimes find it a little tiresome when, you know, we have these comparisons between the genres, or, you know, between various strains of the music. And, you know, we have preferences. I have my own and other people have theirs. But I think what is important is that Jamaica triumphs in the long run. And to be very honest, Jamaican music, in terms of that which is led by our artists, might not be as successful as Jamaican music forms. And what do I mean by that? Jamaican music is flourishing all over the world because different nationalities are taking on aspects of Jamaican music, whether in full or derivatives. I mean, we see the success of a Bad Bunny and what has happened there with reggaeton. That is something that, you know, we can be justly proud of. And
well,
my concern is, how do we relate to these developments to our own advantage? And my own opinion is that I don't think we've been doing as well as we could or should.
All right.
In terms of exploiting those relationships.
I think it's so important that you highlighted that, Clive Mackenzie, because in talking about reggae revival artists, newer reggae generation artists, like what we could think of as like some of the big ones, so Chronics, for example, Protege, Kabaka Pyramid, others like Women, Lila Ike, Coffee, Naomi Coven, Savannah, Janine. You can have others like Jesse Royal, Mortimer, Rasai. Those are some of the newer artists that fall under this big umbrella, this big tent of reggae, is, if you will. Dr. Dennis Howard, let me pull you into this conversation here, because you've documented the evolution of the sound, with Afrobeats and Latin sounds dominating the global charts. You just heard Clyde Mackenzie make reference to Bad Bunny, a global icon who was just on stage at the Super Bowl in the United States. Has reggae lost its seat at the head of the table, or are we just in a period of reinvention?
I don't think. Listen, IFPI, the International Federation of Phonographic Industry, they do a survey every year as to the top genres in the world, and they sample Europe, I think Africa, North America, and Japan, and maybe not South Korea, probably South Korea. But reggae is always in the top 10. Despite the fact that most of the songs that they are talking about is not Jamaican reggae music. But the fact of the matter is that Jamaica has given the world a gift, which is reggae. You have reggae bands everywhere in the world. Hawaii as a state, if they were a country, that would be their national music. They call it island pop. People like even Bruno Mars always have a reggae song on his albums and grew up with reggae music, and his brand of reggae sounds very authentic. So the issue I have now is that the reggae revival is kind of old now, you know, it's about 15 years old. Chronics and these guys have been around for a very long time now. And in a sense, what we are not recognizing also is that this group of people have pushed the music beyond the standard reggae form. In fact, people like Walsh Fire and people like myself have been saying that we need a new label for this new type of reggae music. I call it new wave reggae because these guys have been skillfully blending all kinds of different genres in the reggae music, keeping the authenticity of it, but also blending. Janine, for instance, have a very jazzy dub flavor. Kabaka Pyramid is more of a rapper type thing. You know, Chronix is almost like a folk singer, or like and he has gospel roots, and it sometimes come out in the music. So the thing is, Jamaica, as Clyde mentioned, we are not really capitalizing. We love to brag and we love to celebrate. That's it. We don't get serious in terms of investment. We don't get serious in terms of labeling and identifying our music. Take, for instance, the UNESCO. We brag about the UNESCO.
The UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage Certification.
Cultural heritage.
There you go.
We brag about that.
We got that in 2018.
Done anything, yeah. But we have as a nation has not said this is our national treasure. We have not passed anything to say reggae is our own. Well, that don't make any sense.
I think that is so important that you've talked about it, because reggae is a sovereign economic asset and certainly something that Jamaica could exploit in this way, having now cultural industries contribute billions globally. But there's a whole discussion, as you said, reggae being on that top 10 list, but some of it not being Jamaican reggae. Clyde Mackenzie, before we take our break here in the show, you've always spoken about the business of the beat. As we close Reggae Month, what is it that we need to be look at to become closer to turning our musical genius into sustainable wealth generating industry for the grassroots artists? Because of those billions, I'm afraid that many of our artists are working very hard but not reaping a lot of it.
The business models have changed. Gone are the days when, record labels used to sign artists for large sums of money. Those days are not really with us today. And what is happening is that there are ways in which artists can make money for themselves, but they're not going to make the gobs of money that they used to in the past. And if people understand this, because there are numerous avenues for making money today, merchandising, all different sorts of things that you can do as an artist. And there are different cheaper promotional modalities now that exist. So you don't necessarily need the kind of backing from a major label or an international entity the way you did a couple of years ago. And if you are prepared to play small venues and know where to go, because in many instances, you might think that things might not be happening for you here in Jamaica, but you might find that you have a breakout hit down in South America or in Africa or somewhere. So one of the things you have to do is you have to keep your ears close to the ground and know what is happening in terms of the different markets. And that, to me, is a very important part of the deal. Now, there are shifts in
hold on, Clyde Mackenzie, because it's so important that you've spoken about that, especially keeping your ears close to the ground. Perhaps you could be a star somewhere else on the planet. We'll talk about that, though, and continue to keep our eyes on the music after we take a break here with Clyde Mackenzie and Dr. Dennis Howard inside Lead Story.
It's the 2026 Reggae Gold Awards Ceremony, National Arena, Friday, February 27. Join the stars of reggae music on the red carpet as a grateful nation honors its musical ambassadors. Plus, performances by Richie Stevens, Etana, Chris Malachi, Lost and Kawa Reggae Band, straight out of China. Yes, a Chinese reggae band. To cap it all, the Reggae Messenger, Luciano Live with the Reggae Gold Orchestra. And Ken Booth being inducted into the Jamaica Music Museum Hall of Fame. And CVM will be there to capture every moment starting at 8 p.m. That's the 2026 Reggae Gold Awards Ceremony, National Arena, Friday, February 27. Another Reggae Month 2026 event.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orvin Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's a live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
We're continuing our conversation with Dr. Dennis Howard and Clyde McKenzie as we look at not only the business of reggae, but the end of Reggae Month, the end of Black History Month, and now Jamaica Day. And we wanted to be able to celebrate with you on this glorious occasion as we also close out the month of February here inside Lead Story. Clyde McKenzie, you were talking to us though about artists not being able to make, you called it the gobs of money that they might have been able to in the past, but still needing to keep their ears on the ground and being aware of what's going on. Connect it as well for me with the role that reggae music plays, especially after natural disasters, because for something like Jamaica going through Hurricane Melissa in October last year now meant that there were many programs and concerts put on, people going out and showing their support for Jamaica by supporting our artists. Are we still having reggae be the healing of the nation music like it used to be?
Was that for me or
Clyde McKenzie? That's for you. That's for you. Connect what you were saying to me about reggae artists not being able to make the gobs of money that they were in the past to now something happening like Hurricane Melissa, where reggae artists were asked to be the healing of the nation.
I tell you what, one of the things that artists have been known to do, and not just in this dispensation, is that they have been known to connect to causes that are bigger than themselves. And sometimes that is a way of really ensuring that you make some kind of impression in the marketplace. So it might be an environmental cause. It might be you're talking about health for kids or something that is bigger than you. I mean, Bob Marley was very good at that because he was taking on causes that were bigger than him to begin with. I mean, he was taking on issues of black nationalism. He was taking on issues of like apartheid and these matters. Now, when you do that, you are able to generate more attention and by extension, more revenue for yourself because you're connected to things that are bigger than you.
I think that's so important. that larger cause, that larger connection, being part of reggae being able to give back to the people as well is going to be core as we watch these times unfold. But Dennis Howard, today's also Jamaica Day. I saw Clyde McKenzie in his yellow. I see you wearing red today, so you're not quite on theme for Jamaica Day to be able to match us, but it's being celebrated in schools today. How do we move reggae from just being lunch hour entertainment in some parts of our country to now being a core part of the academic blueprint for Jamaican identity?
All right. Well, it's commendable that we have a Jamaica Day, because I call that part of our cultural crystallization, where we focus on our culture, focus on Jamaica, and we have to start at the high schools and the primary schools, and we don't have to wait until university for them to get a course on Marcus Garvey or on sound system or on reggae. We have the Reggae Studies unit at the University of the... But we should have reggae units in high schools and in primary schools and culture clubs all over the place, so that we inculcate into our students the beauty of our culture and our music. Well, the social media is taking care of that in terms of spreading some of the culture, TikTok in particular. A lot of people from diaspora, they are heavy into promoting Jamaican culture, and through that, a lot of young people are learning about Jamaican culture. But we need to have it at the state level, and we don't have it. And it is kind of ironic that the shortest month of the year, I know it's because of Dennis Brown and Bob Marley, we celebrate Reggae Month, but we should have more celebration and recognition for the music. I think I am adamant about this. We need to have Bob Marley as a national hero. We need to have Miss Lou as a national hero. And we also have to have some national designation about our culture. We must
something that solidifies it in a way that just doesn't allow us to have it as something to celebrate when it's convenient, but something that says arts is so important that we now recognize in the way that we say political contributions.
Absolutely. We love external validation, and that don't make any sense. We have to become very confident in our culture. So we have to have cultural confidence. And apparently, the business people and the powerful people in this country don't relate to our culture very well. It is obvious. Even at the political level, it's mostly lip service.
Let me pull on things that are bigger than themselves. Well, right now, we're looking at a water crisis. Yesterday and today, we had fires at a dump that would have now sent black smoke into nearby communities. This landfill fire today, this water crisis, these are signs of systemic strain. Historically, reggae would have been the music that would have sang about this sort of thing. People still even talk about songs that do that sort of referencing. Where are the protest voices in 2026 reggae?
Well, I'll tell you something. Protest in music has experienced somewhat of a slippage. And this is perhaps due to the general political climate, and that's not something that is unique to Jamaica. I'll say that. But one of the things I would also say, just to riff on what Dr. Howard pointed to, is the whole matter of the reliance on the cultural industries for support and assistance whenever we experience a crisis. But the fact is that, as Dennis has pointed out, the level of investment from traditional sources of capital, for example, in the entertainment industry has not been encouraging. And as a result, the kinds of returns we could have made and the kinds of scale that we could have operated on had we the requisite levels of investment. We are not really dealing at that level. And that is because people don't really recognize and appreciate the value, economic, commercial, financial value of the cultural industries. So most people still see it as a form of minstrelsy, and therefore they don't think that, despite the overwhelming evidence, they don't think that this is something that is worthy of investment. And that's a big part of the problem. Now, members of the entertainment industry will also have to invest. And some of them have, because we would not have had the kind of music and the kind of international recognition had we not had indigenous investments from people who have loved the music and decided to put their money where their mouth is. But the fact is that the level of investments that we need to really have some huge returns, we're not doing that.
And I think that is certainly something that many people don't appreciate, Clyde Mackenzie. They don't appreciate that it needs more investment. It needs more. You celebrate Reggae Month. You talk about the things in February, and hearing now Dr. Dennis Howard make it very clear that there is need for us to make this not only a more focused concern throughout the year, but also to elevate the arts, clearly means that there is and will continue to be inside Lead Story more of this for 2026 as we discuss what matters to us all. Thanks so much for joining us, gentlemen, inside Lead Story. That's all the time we have for this discussion today. That was musicologist. Always a pleasure to have you both on with us. Thank you. That was musicologist and coordinator of the Entertainment and Cultural Enterprise Management Program at the UWI, Dr. Dennis Howard, and cultural commentator, entrepreneur, and strategic consultant, Clyde Mackenzie. Now, gentlemen, thank you for an incredible wrap-up to the month. And we had all those things: Jamaica Day, Black History Month, Reggae Month. But this week, we saw 3 pillars of democracy at work. The executive under scrutiny for its words, the judiciary testing new tools of transparency, and the culture reminding us who we are. Accountability is not noise, it is structure. Transparency, well, that's going to be important, but it's not a spectacle, it's trust. And identity is not a costume, it's continuity. If we can protect our institutions as firmly as we protect our sound, and we have, we'll not just celebrate Jamaicanness, we will strengthen it. That is the story. Continue to celebrate Jamaica Day. I'm Jody Ann Quarry, and on behalf of the entire CVM production team, thank you for watching Lead Story. Have a fantastic evening, a great Jamaica Day, and I hope you stay safe. Up next, CVM News.